Hey, what's up everyone? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this review we're looking at the Star Wars Black Series 6-inch CHEWBACCA. Everybody thought when they first showed this guy that it looked really crappy, and I have to say, while there are some issues with it, I'm pretty pleased with it. I mean, there's only so much you can do with a character covered in hair to sculpt that out of a hard material and give it articulation and make it look good. Ultimately, the only thing I think this figure needs is a better paint job. I think the sculpt and articulation is as good as you can really expect for the most part. He stands appropriately at about 8 inches tall, so he's definitely taller. I already put Luke away and everybody else, but I'll show you Vader just up next to him real quick. So he's definitely got the height that he's supposed to have, so that's pretty good. And as far as accessories go, he comes with his Wookiee crossbow, is that what it's called? Man, I don't remember. I wouldn't remember it all if it wasn't for my brother playing Knights of the Old Republic forever ago. Like I said, I'm not the biggest Star Wars person, but it's got some nice detailing, a little bit of paintwork on there. I'm pretty sure it is a crossbow. It looks like a crossbow. It looks like it should have some strings on there, but maybe it's not supposed to, so I'm not going to talk about that anymore because I don't know enough about it. And he comes with his knapsack, which has some decent paintwork. It's got some weathering going on for the leather part, this faux leather look going on. It looks nice, and all of the silver parts are painted nicely, so that's pretty good. You can kind of tuck that under his neck fur, and it sits right in place for the most part, so that's okay. Paint on the face, sculpt on the face looks pretty good. He looks a little cross-eyed, but then again, he did kind of look a little cross-eyed in the movie, so I'm not going to complain too much. You can see there is shading throughout. Unfortunately, they did a little bit too much shading. I know he's supposed to have some dark spots and light spots, but it doesn't really flow the way it should. It looks a little bit awkward, and like for example, on this leg, the dark brown goes all the way down, and on this leg, it doesn't. We just got a little bit on the back here. So I definitely could use a paint job, and I think if you're willing to paint yours, you could make this figure look really good really easily. So that's okay. Let's talk about articulation. That's the neck joint. He should have a hinge, and they should have made this out of softer material, I think, because as it is, you don't get any posability out of the head. That is it. So that's disappointing. Shoulders, on the other hand, pretty standard ball hinge shoulders. No bicep swivel. You get that down here in the elbow. You can get about 90 degrees in the bend. Get the wrist rotation and the wrist hinge. He has a trigger finger on both sides. I couldn't get the gun in this hand. I could barely get the gun in this hand, so just be aware of that. Same articulation on both sides, though. As far as the torso articulation, I don't know. Should I try to pop it off? Not coming off, so don't do that. I think this is, well, it's at least a swivel. It doesn't feel like it's supposed to have a ball peg or anything to it. So this top one seems to be just a swivel. This one, it feels like a ball peg for a diaphragm joint. So you can lean him forward and back on that second joint right there. Not a whole lot, but a little bit side to side, not much though. And that will swivel also. And then down here, is there anything else? I think it might, I think this is just a dangly bit. This is just like a loin cloth piece of fur to cover up his goodies. Hips don't have any real hair sculpt on them. I mean, it kind of flows into there, but I guess they figured they're going to be hidden enough that they didn't have to spend the time to sculpt them. So that's a little disappointing. It looks like they used someone else's hips even though they didn't. So that kind of sucks. But as far as the hip articulation goes, you can bring the leg pretty far forward. Let's zoom out so you can see a little better. You can bring the leg pretty far forward, not so far to the side, a little bit back, so fairly decent range of articulation, I guess. This should be a softer material, I think. We have a thigh swivel, single jointed knee. You only get about 90 degrees out of that. You do get the rotation, but I don't think that's a useful joint. And then for the ankle, they just gave you this giant ball hinge, which I guess that works because it's going to be hidden for the most part, but at the same time, it's not great. So that's all you're going to get forward and back, and you do get an ankle rocker, so that's okay. He's not supposed to be in the most dynamic of poses, so I think it's definitely good enough for a CHEWBACCA figure, and it's definitely better than most people thought it was going to be. So I'm going to recommend it. Of course, it is CHEWBACCA, and you're not going to get another 6-inch version probably. So for that reason alone, I recommend it. But it's definitely a decent figure, and there's not too much to complain about, and a little bit of a paint job could really make this guy look great. So there it is, guys. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can see my upcoming figure reviews, custom figures, and other good stuff. And in the meantime, keep collecting.